It's proper getting sweaty now. It's like having a fleece on your wrist.
So it's finally happened to me. I've been hit by a car. So yeah, the incident, I mean, it all did happen very quick. I was just out on my run-of-the-mill, routine, standard Zone 2 training ride. And I was right at the end, coming back down into town. And basically, when you're coming back into town where I live, there is a pretty busy residential road where there's a lot of cars pulling in, pulling out, and weaving about. Anyway, this car in front of me pulls in and then suddenly pulls out again. And I thought that's a bit weird. And then it suddenly slammed its brakes on, and I just didn't have time to react to it. And I'd either gone in the back of the car or swing round to the right into the oncoming lane. Fortunately, the oncoming lane was clear, so I swung into that. However, the driver had clearly not checked his mirrors and didn't check that I was currently like coming up alongside him, because I was slamming my brakes on, but even with disc brakes and 30mm tyres, still couldn't stop. And he turns into me and knocks me off. I thought I might have held it up at first because I was on the side of the car, but he's still not noticed, even though I've thudded into the car. And he kept turning and turning and turning until I hit the deck. Fortunately, he did wait around. I've got his insurance details, and BC provide legal support. So I'm going to be looking down that avenue. I've already got in touch with like their solicitor and stuff. So hopefully I won't be out of pocket for any damage to my bike, and maybe even get some compensation. So yeah, the injury then, it's supposedly a broken scaphoid, which is a bone somewhere in your hand around here that like connects from your wrist to your thumb. And it's a tiny little one, and it's really hard for the imaging to pick up whether it's fractured. So I had some x-rays done at A&E, and actually they are inconclusive. You can't actually see a fracture on it. All they could see was some swelling on that bone. And now what the procedure is I have to wear this splint for supposedly 10 days, but it's actually like my appointment's not for, I think it'll be about 16 days after the incident. And then they're going to re-x-ray it and see whether the fracture has displayed any like signs, which apparently normally does after just over 1 to 2 weeks. So hopefully they'll be able to see if it is fractured or not. And if it isn't and it's not hurting, then they will be like, it's not fractured. But it's really important apparently to leave it set if there's any suspicion of a fracture, because there's low blood flow to it, and apparently it is one that's quite at risk of not healing properly if you don't take it seriously. So even if it does stop hurting, I am going to take it seriously, and there is some pretty nasty bruising on it, so I think it probably is. It is really tough actually dealing with an incident like this. Like, I was just entering like a big block of base training. I was really like hyped up for it. You know, got loads of plans, what a really big year next year. You know, I've had some of my first good successes this year, and it's just such a setback. Assuming it is fractured, that's 6 weeks of, you know, I can't go outside on my bike, and that's what I often use in the winter as like a way to get out and do something after work. So it is going to be a mindset reset, but I'm not going to let it stop me, and I'm going to now just give you a bit of an idea of how I'm going to keep active and keep training even if I can't be riding my bike outside. One of the big things I'm going to be doing is making use of the turbo. Now, I haven't exactly spoken to a doctor about it, but my plan is, and I did a 45-minute ride on Monday to test that, I can pretty much put all my weight on my left arm while I'm on the turbo. And then, you know, my legs are fine. I only got a bit of a graze on one knee. There's no like lingering damage to my legs. So I'm just going to start doing my Zone 2 on the turbo. Probably will drop the hours a little bit, especially since, as I noticed on Monday, by only holding the bars with one arm, like the RPE or perceived effort is through the roof. I felt a little bit uncomfortable doing that. I mean, I don't feel any discomfort in my wrist, but it's just, I don't want to push it too hard.
In terms of damage to my bike, I don't think I've done too badly considering how bad it could have been. There's a little bit of scuffing down the side of my lever, got a bit of scuffing on my pedals, but nothing too serious. And some scratching on my rear mech and on the side of the saddle. So all of them, I'm hopefully going to get the money to get replaced, because, you know, it's not my fault, and I don't want to be out of pocket for this. The only other possible issue I think I've managed to find is I think my front wheel might be slightly out of true when I was just spinning it then. So, I mean, I'm going to get it to a shop and just see what they think and get them to come up with a bill of how much it's going to cost to repair everything. I'm hoping the solicitors that are looking into it, that British Cycling have provided, manage to sort it out and get the guy's insurance to pay for it, because it's going to cost a fair bit. I reckon it's probably, you know, to get it sorted to the condition it was before the crash, probably $1,000 maybe. You know, replacing all them parts, Dura stuff is not cheap, so we're just going to have to see how it goes really, and I will keep you all updated. But now I'm going to get on with this Zone 2, so let's give it a shot. The Cannondale is back from Hill Climb Spec.
double group set. I've not cleaned up the cabling yet, and I've actually not got the front mech wired in, but it's perfectly good enough for erg mode on the turbo. I don't usually use a wheel block, but by putting my front wheel on one, it's just elevated the front end that little bit more. So I'm not putting as much weight through my hands, and I'm more planted in the saddle. So yeah, it's making a big difference.
Right, we're on the turbo now. The main thing I'm doing differently is this hand, I'm barely gripping the bars with, just having it really lightly rested on there. The weight is actually all coming through my left hand. Now maybe this is a bit foolish, but one of the little things I've done is I haven't screwed my shift through on this hand properly. The reason for it being, I have a really clear test of, am I putting much pressure on that side? So basically for myself, just to keep reminding me when I'm a bit tired, I've got to hold it so lightly with this hand that it doesn't move the shifter. I've also slightly dropped my usual zone 2 watts because I don't want to be straining anything really, and I doubt it'll make much difference to my trading just going that little bit easier either. The other thing is, it's proper getting sweaty now. It's like having a fleece on your wrist. It's not the most pleasant thing in the world, so I'm going to definitely have to give it a good wash afterwards. I've decided the wobbly shifter is a bit stupid. I nearly slipped earlier when I put a bit of pressure on it without realising. I think I'm more likely to re-injure myself than anything else. Last minute, can't wait to get this clean because it is pretty grim now. And there we go, that's the hour done. Let's call that a day. Oh, right.
The wrist actually feels all right, so I think going forward, you know, I think it's going to work, so that's quite exciting. Tomorrow I'm going to try the 90 minutes. I wanted to do 90 today, but I've just thought I am going to build it back slowly. I don't want to push too hard too soon. Unfortunately, I had quite a lot of plans for content that I was going to be making over the next probably a couple of months. I had a long list of videos I wanted to make, and now I'm going to have a bit of a rethink. So I think I'm going to pivot just these next few months into mostly looking at my recovery, and I've also got an exciting project on the horizon. As much as my partner might not be the most happy about it, I want a decent bike for racing on next year. So I've bought an old rim brake bike that I am going to try and get as light as possible over a series of videos. So if you are interested in building, on a budget, building a really, really light hill climb bike, you'll have to get yourself subscribed. I'm going to leave the video there then, and I will be back updating you in my progress, probably on after I've had my ortho appointment on the 25th, to see what they think, whether they think it is fractured or whether they think it is just bad bruising and spraining. But anyway, I'll catch you guys in the next one.